This is Shakoya and Cheyenne with another Psychological and Brain Sciences Department podcast. Today we are here with Dr. Heather Lench, a affective scientist and professor here at Texas A&M.
So what classes do you teach here at A&M or have you taught in the past?
So in the past, I've taught statistics for psychology, which is one of the two foundational courses for all of our majors. It's not the most popular class in the world, but it's important for the rest of students training in psychology. Right now, I'm teaching the psychology of emotion.
Yeah. So have you taught any classes, have you taught at other universities before, or has it just been at A&M?
I taught at the University of California, Irvine, and California State University, Fresno.
Okay, awesome.
How would you describe your teaching style?
Well, so I guess it's Socratic. So I try to involve students in discussions and as part of the class. I get bored listening to myself for 50 minutes to an hour and a half. And so I try to get the students to engage actively with the lecture, asking questions, being involved in small group discussions, getting hands-on experience with something. So in my psychology of emotions course, there was a section of the course where I taught students how to read facial expressions of emotion. So like what changes to look for in the face when people are feeling happy versus angry versus sad. So it was a hands-on activity.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your philosophy of teaching?
To get students engaged early and often. It's tricky because every student's a little different, right? So some students really engage with videos, some really engage with discussion, some love hands-on activities. I don't know if students love group activities, but it's a useful learning technique. Right. And so I try to incorporate really a mix of those different types of activities so that every student has a way to connect with the material.
Have you ever found one way of teaching to be more effective than others, just in general with all the classes you've taught? Has any one of them stood out to you?
Probably the one that stands out the most is a few years ago I taught a freshman seminar on, I forget the title, Harnessing Emotions and Thoughts to Achieve Your Goals and Happiness. And what really stood out in that class is that students understood why happiness was important to their lives. And so they were really engaged with the class. They wanted to know more. They would do research on their own about what worked. We had all these activities to enhance happiness as part of the class, and the students actually did them because they could see the benefit of it. And so I think that that's really a key to successful teaching is when students can see why information is useful.
For sure. Yeah. With that being said, could you tell us about your teaching experiences?
So I started teaching at California State University, Fresno. The first course I taught was a lab for Intro to Psychology, and I had exactly 2 students at an 8 a.m. class in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And in some ways, that was really formative for the rest of my teaching because you can't really lecture to 2 students at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? And so my first teaching experience was really transitioning from what I had been prepared for, which was to lecture, to sitting down and really talking with these 2 students, right? And having them be part of the class. And then I think from there, I kind of scaled up to, I can teach 100 students now in that way, right? More discussion-based.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you could teach any course you wanted, what would it be and why?
The psychology of emotion, because that's what I study, that's my area of research, and I just truly believe that emotions are important for almost any career you're going to choose, and also just for your daily life, right? So the more you know about your emotions and other people's emotions, the better the decisions that you can make, the more sort of reasonable you can be as a human being, and the easier it is to connect to other people, right? So the better your social life, too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your research interests?
Yeah, so I study emotions. I have some work that studies specific emotions, so things like boredom and awe and how they affect people. And then I have some work that looks at this idea that emotions are really the foundation of all of our thought and all of our behavior. And so we'll do things like, change how you feel about a coaster or a power outlet, something initially very neutral, and then see how those feelings that we've created in the lab, how they affect your judgments and your thoughts afterward.
Yeah, pretty cool. So how has your research influenced your teaching, and in what ways have you been able to bring the insights of your research to your courses at the undergraduate level?
Yeah, so teaching psychology of emotion has been great along the line because it is my area of expertise. And so what I'm able to do then is, because I'm very familiar with the area, I can bring in, when we're talking about methods of causing emotion, I can bring in those methods and share them with the students, and we can discuss them. If students have questions about something that's really tangential to the lecture, I usually know the answer, part of the answer, because it is my area of expertise. And then I guess the other thing that I bring from my research is a scientific approach, right? So there are no dumb questions. They're all worth asking, but we need to be smart about how we evaluate evidence to answer those questions. And so that I bring into the classroom as well, is working with students to identify, if you have this question, what are the pieces of evidence that you need? And then what does the evidence say is a potential answer to your question.
How do you involve graduate or undergraduate students in your research?
Will you guys visit once a week to our research lab? So that's part of it, is that undergraduate students and graduate students in my lab get together once a week to talk about research ideas and research projects, but also to talk about professional development as students and as early scientists. Students are really integral to the process from start to finish. So graduate students and sometimes undergraduate students help with the development of ideas. So we might talk about that question we want to ask, or this new paper that came out and what it might say for the rest of our work, or other questions we might want to ask. And then students are definitely involved in data collection. So they might bring participants into the lab and put them through some kind of manipulation that changes their emotional state, and then they'll work with the participant to measure whatever the outcome is in the study.
So what made you want to create the media outreach course?
Well, so we have almost 1,600 majors in psychology. That's a lot of people.
Right.
And there are others across campus that are interested in psychology, but not necessarily our majors. And so it's difficult to reach that many people and to help them feel involved in the department, and like they know what's going on and who the professors are and what graduate students do. I can't just go to one class and I've talked to everybody. It's just not possible with 1,600 people. And so the idea behind this media outreach, whatever form it takes, Instagram, Facebook, whatever else people do now, is really to just help people feel connected with the department. Because we are big, but we want all of our students to be successful and to have a chance to take advantage of opportunities while they're here. And part of that's getting to know the department and getting to know faculty.
Right, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back soon with another interesting insight into the faculty of the Psychological and Brain Sciences Department.